If there's ever a Hellcat equivalent car from the 80s, it most definitely is the Buick Grand National. The Buick Grand National was one of the hottest performance cars of the 1980s, which was equipped with a turbocharged V6 engine and painted blacker than a Rolling Stones song. But what makes the Buick Grand National an American legend? And why is it still a top choice for collectors and enthusiasts nearly 4 decades later? Well, get ready to dive deep into the world of Buick Grand National, where performance meets a touch of class. And if you love exploring the classics just as much as we do, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Buick Motor Company, which was originally known as Buick Auto Vim and Power Company, established by David Dunbar Buick back in 1899, was the first American auto manufacturer to offer turbocharged V6 engines. Now, what exactly led to the Buick Grand National becoming such a success in the 1980s? Darrell Waltrip winning the NASCAR championship in 1981 and 82, and Bobby Allison winning the Daytona 500 in 82 driving a Buick Regal, meant that it was time for GM to capitalize on its racing success, knowing that what wins on Sunday sells on Monday. The Daytona 500 in 1982 was when they first released this iconic car, which came with an engine which made a whopping 125 horsepower. The Buick Grand National was named after the NASCAR Winston Cup Grand National Series, which was known as the Grand National for 21 years before NASCAR sold the naming rights in 1971. It was also released to rejuvenate their performance image, which was overshadowed by the Chevrolet Camaros and Pontiac Firebirds. The Grand National that came out in 1982 was merely just a shell of the Regal, as it wasn't anything extraordinary, but it certainly did look tougher. This probably looks different from what you expected, but contrary to popular belief, the Grand National wasn't black at first. It was silver with red pinstripes. But as time elapsed, more and more performance was added to it. But 1983 was treated as a day off for the Buick Grand National so that it could return stronger, better, and with a clearly defined goal. In 1984, things started to get exciting. The Grand National had 200 horsepower, which was only 5 horsepower behind the 1984 Corvette, and soon a horsepower race would develop between the two. 2,000 Grand Nationals were made in 1984, and they sold out quick. Buick then bumped up the horsepower to 235 by 1986. Fast forward to 1987, and there it was, the Buick Grand National Experimental, otherwise known as the GNX. The original turbo muscle car, which came in any color you wanted as long as it was black. Think all muscle cars are V8s? Well, think again. Featuring performance suspension and engine tuning by Indy race car builder ASC McLaren, the 1987 Buick GNX was similar to the standard Grand National on the outside other than special badging. All the magic was under the hood, including a turbo intercooled 3.8-liter turbocharged V6, which was a very unusual engine back when the car was new. Even though V6s are quite common these days, they really weren't back then. It had a reported 276 horsepower and a massive 360 pound-feet of torque. 20,740 Grand Nationals were built in 1987, with only 547 converted to limited edition Regal GNX models. The GNX could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 5 seconds and run a low 13-second quarter mile. All this for less than 30 grand in the US. But you may be wondering, can a turbocharged 6-cylinder really compete with the raw power of a V8? Well, the Buick Grand National says yes. That right there was a Grand National speed blitzing a Corvette Z06, which, funny enough, has a V8 engine. Incredibly, the Buick GNX was able to blitz the quarter-mile run in 12.7 seconds at 113.1 miles per hour, which put it in supercar territory. That meant it destroyed every Corvette, every Camaro, every Firebird, and every Mustang in 1987, beating the esteemed Ferrari F40 by 0.3 seconds. With a 0 to 62 mile per hour time of 4.6 seconds, the only car that was faster than the GNX at the time was the legendary Lamborghini Countach. Imagine if Buick today made a car that was almost as fast as the Lamborghini Aventador. It was just as crazy back then as it would be now. Rather than a large, naturally aspirated V8, Buick boasted a single-turbo 3.8-liter V6 that would even show its big cousin, the Corvette, its taillights. The Grand National outpaced the Corvettes, Camaros, and Mustangs, and it certainly didn't have that sports car look. You'll never realize it's fast until it starts beating you. These beasts are what's known as sleepers. The logo of the Grand National, which was a cool yellow and red circle that turned into an arrow, was an interesting visual double entendre. It represented both a turbocharger since the car was turbocharged and the number 6 since it had a V6 engine under its hood. The logo appears in several places on the car, including the wheels and trunk of the car. While the exterior of the Grand National was blacked out, the interior was a mix of chrome and bright metal. The aim of the interior was to deliver a sense of power and performance, which was wrapped in a comfortable package. As soon as you step into the car, you're greeted with plush bucket seats, which were often clad in smooth black cloth or leather, providing comfort for longer rides. Followed by a niche dashboard, which provided the driver a clear and driver-focused layout with key gauges that was prominent and easy to read. The Grand National was also equipped with power windows and power locks, along with a steering wheel that made anyone driving the machine feel like a racer. The Grand National's influence extends beyond the automobile industry. It featured in one of the most iconic films of the 2000s, Gone in 60 Seconds, Out for Justice, and Fatal Beauty. The Grand National also made an appearance in the opening scene of Fast and Furious 4, which is driven by the character Dominic Toretto, played by Vin Diesel. It has also been featured in multiple racing video games, including the Crew Motorfest, Need for Speed World, and Need for Speed No Limits. Its appearances outside the automotive world ensure that the legacy of the Grand National will live on for eternity, and the aficionado will always have a way to enjoy a masterpiece of a car. By the late 80s, most American car manufacturing companies focused on manufacturing more efficient and cost-effective vehicles to try and keep up with rising competition from foreign markets. The Grand National, with its powerful V6 engine and old-school design, seemed like a relic of the past at this point. As a result, there was a decline in Buick sales, and the future of the Grand National looked uncertain. However, despite these challenges, the Grand National managed to maintain a loyal following, and its popularity continued to grow among car enthusiasts even to this day. Its rear-wheel drive layout, aggressive styling, and potent engine made it a favorite among muscle car aficionados, who saw it as a symbol of American power and pride. As other sports cars received more investment and attention from manufacturers, the Grand National was left behind, and eventually in 1987, the production of the Buick Grand National came to a halt. However, this only added to its charm, as the Grand National became a symbol of the underdog, a car that refused to give up despite the odds being stacked against it. This made the Grand National an American legend, whose influence can still be seen in modern muscle cars. It was truly a one-of-a-kind American muscle car, where class met performance. The Grand National became an icon, muscle car royalty. The reason it still remains a top choice for collectors and enthusiasts is that in the final year of its production, a mere 547 Grand Nationals were sent off to the ASC McLaren Performance Technologies to be upgraded into the limited production GNX, Grand National Experimental. The original price of a GNX was under 20 grand, but the current value can range anywhere above 100 grand, while a pristine GNX with less than 1,000 miles on it could fetch you more than 200 grand, as the rarity and prestige of one would only increase as time flows. As Tony Asenza expressed in May 1987 for Car and Driver, in a world of sleek shapes and refined manners, the GNX is an axe-wielding barbarian laying waste to everything in its path. This beast was the ultimate muscle car that redefined power. Just imagine nailing the throttle and feeling like you've been shot out of a cannon or launched off an aircraft carrier. That is exactly how Paul Zazarin, a renowned automotive historian, described the experience of being behind the wheel of a Grand National. It was just unbelievable, as this torque monster wasn't just a car, it was a statement. The Grand National's racing prowess, compiled with its success in the 1980s NASCAR Championship and Daytona 500, coupled with how it shocked the entire automobile industry with its V6 turbocharged engine, will always be a moment etched in the history books. In the end, time will always be kind to the Grand National, and its legacy will continue to live on. Now, what features do you think made the Grand National a timeless classic? And what other classic cars do you think deserve the spotlight, and why? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Give it a thumbs up if you liked the video, and please make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss our next episode of the Muscle Car Vault.